It's 2010. The West Indies are playing the third test of a series against South Africa, the best team in the world. Already in a period where they're struggling to form a consistently threatening pace attack, the West Indies are in the midst of a sudden injury crisis. Their two leading pacers in recent years have been Fidel Edwards and Jerome Taylor. Edwards, the pacey mercurial Barbadian, had missed an entire year due to a back surgery, and the West Indies were taking no risks with him. Taylor, the electric Jamaican, had a career ravaged by injuries, and this period was no different. In the first two tests of the series, whilst South Africa had the luxury of using Steyn and Morkel, the West Indies had to rely on Ravi Rampaul, Neilon Pascal, Dwayne Bravo, and a young Kemar Roach. Not exactly the fiery attack that you would need to take down the great South African batting lineup, but then it gets even worse. Rampaul is omitted from the third test squad due to a side strain. Now, Rampaul hadn't even managed to take a wicket in the first two tests, but he was still probably in their best available 11. So their squad for the third test now only included four pacers: Dwayne Bravo, Darren Sammy, Neilon Pascal, and Kemar Roach. Aside from Roach, who obviously became a good cricketer, a pretty uninspiring lineup, but it only gets worse. Darren Sammy tears his thigh 2 days out from the match. The West Indies don't call up a replacement, and so they're basically locked into picking all three available pacers left in their squad. And then, in the warm-up, just before the toss, Pascal gets injured. Now, the West Indies clearly can't go into a test with just Roach and Bravo as their pacers, so they need to rush someone in. All of those bowlers we just mentioned are injured. Their A-team is currently thousands of kilometres away in England, meaning they can't pick Andre Russell, Gavin Tong, Lionel Barker, David Bernard, and they also couldn't pick Tino Best, who was playing county cricket at the time. In comes Brandon Bess, and immediately people, including those in the West Indies, are saying, "Who is that guy?" Nobody seems to have any idea who Brandon Bess is, and he's not even at the ground for the start of play, arriving halfway through the second over whilst his captain is already at the crease. As it turns out, Bess was a Guyanese pacer who was presently training at the High Performance Centre in Barbados. And it wasn't like he was just a club bowler. He had played 18 first-class matches and had represented West Indies A against England and Zimbabwe. The problem, though, is that his first-class record was absolutely atrocious. In those 18 first-class games, he had only taken 30 wickets at an average of 48.8, with an economy of 4.7. When he'd played for the West Indies A, he'd only been able to take the wickets of Chamu Chibaba against Zimbabwe and Ryan Sidebottom against England. And he also could not bat at all. So this guy should have been statistically nowhere near the Guyana side, let alone the West Indies A side, let alone the West Indies Test side. But, stats aren't everything. And by virtue of being at the academy up the road and then called up into the squad, clearly he was rated internally at West Indies cricket. And look, Michael Holding became an all-time great despite having a poor first-class record prior to his selection, so there was always a chance for him. Anyways, clearly, well, you know who Michael Holding is, you probably don't know who Brandon Bess is, so the test gets underway and it goes about as you'd expect, with South Africa ripping through the West Indies. And so in the 71st over of their innings, Brandon Bess strolls to the crease at number 11. Sadly for him, this is probably the high watermark of his test career, as he manages to deposit Johan Botha over his head for 6, and then hit a slightly less graceful 4 off Dale Steyn to get himself to double digits, before Suleiman Ben gets out at the other end. But then he gets a chance to showcase his primary skill, bowling the second over of the South African first innings, and in the first over of his career, he concedes 13 runs. If this was, as it was for most people, the first time you ever saw Brandon Bess bowling, I think there must have been some level of clarity around the situation. Bess had a lot of the right attributes. He's quite tall, quick enough for test level, and seemed to be able to move the ball a bit. which is basically to say that he had the attributes to trouble Test batsmen. But it also became apparent that he had absolutely no control at all. And it's not like he was Sean Tate or Shoaib Akhtar pace-wise. In terms of miles per hour, he was consistently in the mid-80s, so he was at times touching 140 kilometres per hour. But Kemar Roach was easily bowling quicker, 5 to 10 kilometres per hour quicker throughout the test, and with great control. Bess only gets a 2-over spell with the new ball, probably not a very good sign. The next day he gets to start another spell in the 20th over of the innings. Graham Smith and the night watchman Paul Harris are at the crease. Bess concedes 10 runs from his first 5 balls of this spell, bowling, to be frank, terribly. Before he gets his first test wicket, Paul Harris, with a decent but not incredible delivery. He only bowls 2 more overs in this spell without any consistency, and he goes for 10 more runs. And he bowls 2 no balls in this spell. Bess doesn't bowl again for the next 56 overs, during which time Suleiman Ben, Dwayne Bravo and Kemar Roach keep the run rate down to 2.6, and Prince and de Villiers play attritional cricket. Bess returned to the attack with the second new ball, and it was much the same as earlier, however. Expensive and wayward. His first over back lasts 9 deliveries due to the wides and no balls that he delivers, and he goes for 12 runs. On the 4th ball, though, he did get AB de Villiers, of all players, wrapped on the pad, given not out, and had it been referred, it would have been overturned. But after this aberration, he returned to his regular service and bowled a lot of rubbish, except now his pace was trending towards the low 80s. In the rest of his spell, which lasts 4 more overs, he concedes 17 runs, takes no wickets, bowls 2 more wides and 2 more no balls. This is all he bowls for the rest of the entire innings. He does, however, manage to effect a run out of Mark Boucher, though more a result of batsman error than brilliant fielding, to be fair to him. The West Indies go into bat again, 115 runs behind, and fold for 161 to an onslaught from Steyn, Morkel and Johan Botha. Bess at 11 makes a golden duck. With a target of just 47, South Africa make the runs 3 down after Kemar Roach bowls a fiery spell to salvage some respect for the West Indies. Bess at the other end concedes 27 runs in 4 overs. This time only bowling 2 wides and a no ball. He ends his only test match with figures of 1 for 92 from 13 overs, at an economy a tick over 7 and over, keeping in mind that the rest of the attack throughout the entire game only went for 2.2 runs per over. So what happens afterwards? As with a lot of random West Indies players, it's kind of hard to know. The next West Indies tour comes and he's not named, unsurprisingly. He's not even mentioned anywhere as a notable omission. He plays a game for West Indies A in November of that year and bowls tighter but only takes a couple of tail-end wickets. He then goes and admittedly has the best first-class season of his career for Guyana. But it's still only modest. 12 wickets at 25 across 6 games. Behind not just a bunch of West Indian players, but also weirdly Chris Wokes, Danny Briggs, Adil Rashid and Jade Dernbach, because the West Indies first class comp that year included the England Lions. The year after, Bess puts up similar-ish numbers and then never plays professional cricket again after 2012. He plays some club cricket in the USA and Guyana and is already referred to as a former international by media sources in 2013. West Indies commentary legend Tony Cozier is already referring to him as a one-test wonder as early as 2015. And from what I can tell, he's effectively retired from cricket in 2013. I don't think he was dropped, though. I found a random forum post that includes an article from the Guyana Times in 2016 that I actually can't find a copy of anywhere else online. But it notes that Bess took a self-imposed exile from cricket due to having a lack of confidence and having trouble with his bowling rhythm. But that after a 3-year hiatus, he returned to playing a bit of club cricket and was trying to mount a comeback that really, in the end, wasn't to be. And the latest I can find on him suggests that in 2025, he was named as a commentator for a local Guyanese cricket tournament. I think Brandon Bess stands as a testament that once you reach the professional level, just about anything can happen to you. Bess was in the right place at the right time to be thrust into a situation that he clearly was not ready for. And it means that for fans of cricket, Bess is either someone you know of solely because of how out of sorts he was at test level, or you've never heard of him and he's just rendered a mere curiosity, a footnote in the West Indies test caps in their post-peak era. But this is not something that he asked for. And I feel bad for him because behind every mocked international player or behind every forgotten international player is a person who was really just trying their best at that level. Unless it's Hansi Cronje. Anyways, Brandon Bess has a test cap, and until I see Peter George or Brandon Bess himself in my subscribers list, I know for a fact that you at home do not have a test cap.